All right. Hi, friends.
Hi, guys.
We are so excited.
Yes, we have a very special guest with us today, all the way from Canada, even though it's virtually. Well, Anne, if you want to go ahead, and I think first we should virtually cheers to each other right now.
Yes. Cheers, all of us.
And cheers.
So excited.
So, Anne, if you wanted to take a moment and kind of tell us about yourself, and then after that, I think we can probably do check-ins after that.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Yeah. So, hello, everyone. My name is Anne, and I am currently a therapist in training. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be a guest on this podcast and share my knowledge and just hang out with everyone and drink some wine and just have some fun girl time. So, I'm super excited. And yeah, stay tuned because it's going to be lots of fun.
I knew that this was gonna be like perfect when we were like also like we have like a glass of wine and you're like, I'm so ready. Like
Yes.
I will have my glass ready.
Where's
set
the
to
wine?
Go.
Yes, as soon as that happened, we like hung up and Catherine was like, this is going to be great. I was like, so let's do check-ins.
Yeah.
So exciting. So Anne, let's actually start with you. How are you doing today, this week?
Yeah, today I'm feeling really good. I stayed up way too late last night reading a book. And so I was like, oh my gosh. It was like 1 a.m. It was so bad. Slept in, so that was fine. And it just felt so good to just like relax because this week has been so busy. It's only like my second week back at school, but I literally had like, a presentation, then I was seeing a client, and it was just like so much. And like my second week, and I was like, can we just like slow down?
You're like, isn't it supposed to like gradually like get into the semester? Like, why am I like already like going hardcore like week 2?
Yeah, so that was like just a lot, just to take in and trying to manage all my courses, and like we're talking about projects, and I'm like, okay, like I just got here. We ease into the semester, but yeah, so I would say like overall it's pretty good. Definitely need to just like relax, given all the work that is now piled up for the rest of the semester. Yes. And yeah, and like personally I can feel like anxiety when I have like a list of like 10 projects that I have to get done for like all my courses and stuff. And so I'm just trying to like take it day by day and make a plan.
And it can be so hard sometimes too when you have to like shift your brain from like you do classes and like you have to be in that mindset, and then you shift to being with a client and you have to like change your mindset for that, and then change your mindset to be at home and do like normal life things, and it's just like so many different tasks and things that it can feel like stressful and overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I have like different personalities. But yeah, I mean, it's all part of it, and I'm just trying to enjoy where I am right now because I know like once I graduate, next year, like the world's gonna be like go, 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 and clients and stuff. So I'm just trying to ease in and just appreciate every day for what I can do now, and just try to stay present, I guess.
Right. And so, sometimes staying present can be very hard.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Was your book that you were reading last night, was it for fun or was it for like school?
It's for fun. So I actually have this rule with myself, and it's so like, I mean, I'm going to tell you guys, and you guys are going to laugh, but I'm like an avid reader. I love to read. I love the escapism that books give you. And I have to tell myself, like, Christine, you only read in the evenings. Only focus on your schoolwork during the day, and then at nighttime, that's when you can like sit with a book and, do your reading. So
right, that makes sense though.
Yeah, I like it, setting boundaries with your reading. Like sometimes you have to set boundaries with other people. You're like, I got to set boundaries with my books.
I have to set boundaries with my TikTok.
I'm obsessed. It's fine.
Yeah. No, like honestly, I have to do that because I feel like I would just like sit and read all day and like not do the work I have to do.
That's so neat though. I wish I could do that. I cannot sit and read a book like I want to be able to be that person, but I can't focus for like on a book for that long.
it's like very rare for me. Like I have to find a very special book and then like I'm like dive into it, but it like only happens like once every like blue moon.
Right. But thank you so much for sharing how you're
Yeah.
doing. Catherine, how are you doing today?
Oh my gosh. So I would say that I'm doing well. I'm feeling a little stressed because I feel like I have a lot going on this weekend, like a lot of things that I need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
LaCroix, my husband, he is working overnights this weekend. So like all of the like cooking, cleaning, normal chores is kind of up to me this weekend. And then on top of that, I have like my schoolwork for my Japanese class, and then kind of the normal like self-care things I'm trying to do, like the workout videos, trying to like eat better, all those things. And so I'm feeling kind of feel similar like for Anne with like the list of things. And I'm like, okay, I gotta like balance this all out.
Right.
But I'm still feeling good. I'm still feeling happy. It's more so like just trying to manage that stress so it doesn't like escalate too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say I have never felt so old as I do being in this Japanese class with like 18 and 19-year-olds. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so much older now.
I was actually, and again, I'm gonna refer to TikTok. I'm so sorry, friends. But I was on TikTok last night, and this video popped up, and this girl was like, "I'm about to turn 24, which feels so old to me," and I was like, "I need to get off this app."
Like, am I allowed to be on here?
Right. I was like, "Oh my gosh," but you know, it is what it is.
in the class this week on Friday, so yesterday, we were learning how to say like age in Japanese, and she's going through the ages, and she stopped at 21, and then she's basically like, "Oh, here's the ages," and I was like, "Cool, guys, don't worry."
How do you say 37? I'm just kidding.
Excuse me. We do not need to add that many extra years to my age.
That was funny.
It was, I will give you that.
Thank you.
And then we had to do breakout rooms where we would like we'd ask each other like, "What's your age?" Which is nansai desu ka?
Look at you.
Thanks. But
Ew, that laugh.
but we would then say our age, and when I said my age, people just kind of looked at me like,
We didn't just learn that.
"Oh, what number is that?" I'm like, "It's fine, guys. Don't worry about it."
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So I'm doing okay. If I could summarize
Long story
it.
short.
Went down a rabbit hole there with my age and things. But yeah, overall, doing okay. Trying to balance the stress.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah. What about you, Courtney dearest? How you doing?
I feel like every time you guys, I get asked that, I'm always like, so I feel like and I talked to you about this the other day, I'm struggling a little bit right now, and I don't know, like, I can't seem to pinpoint exactly what it is, but I'm feeling a lot more down and a lot more, like, not really sad, but just kind of, like, almost numb, which is weird for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm normally, like, I still, like, want to get things done, I still want to do things, but, like, for the past, like, 3 weeks, I've kind of just been, like, not really feeling anything, kind of. And so I've been trying a lot to do my makeup a lot more because I really love, just like sitting in my room and like doing my makeup, and that makes me happy. And so I've been trying to do that, but there are some days where it's really, really hard and I have to force myself.
Yeah.
But it's always really nice because after I like force myself to do it, it feels really good. And I'm like, okay, like I feel great, I can do this. And I've also been trying to be more active. So like going on bike rides, and that's been like super helpful, even though I'm exhausted and my whole body hurts. But it has been really, really helpful. Just kind of getting out and doing things. And there are some days where like on Thursday, I literally like, I didn't do my makeup. I didn't get dressed. I didn't even like, I just kind of got out of bed and worked. And I was just like, whatever, that's how it's going to be today. Like, that's just how, that's it. It do be like that sometimes. You know what I mean? So struggling a little bit, but still finding things to like make me happy and to keep me going. Yeah.
And I think, and this kind of like circles into kind of what we're talking about today. I think that you still like are actively trying to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Prioritize. There we go. Prioritize your mental health. Like you're aware that like even when you don't want to do things sometimes, like you're still trying to do those like coping activities or those like self-care activities to like make yourself feel better, and you acknowledge afterwards that you do feel better and it is impactful for you,
Right.
which I think is like the important part. So I think a lot of times we kind of put the like mental health on the back burner, or we kind of downplay it, and then it, you know, we don't do the things that we need to do for it. And so actually having that in the forefront of your mind and like prioritizing, I think, is still like so important.
Right. And that's actually exactly what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about, you know, what exactly, you know, does it mean to prioritize your mental health, and how to kind of just do that. So, Anne, like from the therapist in training, what exactly does it mean to prioritize your mental health?
Yeah, and like that's a great question, and I think for different people it looks differently. But before we get into all of that, I just want to kind of talk about mental health and what we mean for this episode, because mental health can be so many broad things. And so when we say mental health, we're really talking about mental well-being. So we're not going to get into, you know, mental illness and things like that, but just how is your mind doing, you know? And so I like to think of mental well-being as a continuum. On one end, you know, you're doing great. You're feeling good. Your thoughts are supportive, you know, you can do things. And then on the other end, unfortunately, you know, your mental well-being might not be too good. And you might be in crisis. Your thoughts can be deceiving. How you're thinking and feeling don't reflect what's going on around you, perhaps. And so that's how I like to think of mental well-being. So like 10 is amazing. And then 1, like perhaps you're in crisis, you know? So for today's episode, mental health is mental well-being. So
awesome. I love that you explained that.
Yeah, and I think that range is such a good idea, because I think a lot of times we kind of have this like black and white idea of mental health. Either we're doing great and our mental health is great, or we're like the exact opposite, and it's like mental health is trash or my mental well-being is trash. And like you said, there's so much more in between where you can have a little bit of both going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like today I might be a 9, but tomorrow I might be like a 5, right? So it just also talks about the complexity of mental health and mental
right.
Because, you know, we're humans. We are very adaptable, but we're also very, like, we can be influenced so easily. And so I think that's really important to just get out there. And I would say that when we talk about what does it mean to prioritize your mental health, we really mean 3 things. So 1, know your mental health. Where are you today in the continuum? How are you doing? That's number 1, is just being aware of that, which is really important because it's hard to do, and we'll get into that as well. But then number 2 is it's really important to understand how things impact your mental health, right? Like, is there certain things that you do that you know, after I do this, I'm going to feel really bad, right? So being aware of those. And then lastly, we also want to be able to be aware of things that can improve your mental health and your mental well-being. And I think it's also important to note at this stage of this podcast, when we say improve your mental health, we really want to appreciate the complexity of mental health and mental well-being. So what we're going to talk about today is very, I would say, more of a basic, lower level understanding. And so if you are someone who really struggles, please continue listening, but know that this might not be the most appropriate coping style mechanisms that we're going to talk about, and that there is more support out there, and that there is more than just what we're talking about today.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think like with this, we're creating a safe space where we talk about things, but you know, our podcast does not take the place of going to therapy or taking medication or doing the other plethora of things that are sometimes needed for like different levels of mental health needs and everything. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, even for like both of us, because I've had, you know, people like some friends be like, oh my gosh, your podcast sometimes kind of sounds like a nice therapy session for you too. Like you guys just talk about a lot of stuff, and it's like, yeah, but you know, it doesn't replace therapy. Like talking to your friends and stuff like that, like doesn't replace the higher
therapist.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I just forgot everything I was saying for a second.
And like that's such a great point too. I on my Instagram account I made a reel. I know, so tech savvy.
I was gonna say Catherine doesn't know how to do that.
Honestly, I was just thinking that. I was like, I have no clue like how to do a reel. So like I'm impressed.
I just learned, so it's okay. But basically I made a video about that because people are like, oh, I can just talk to my friends. I don't need to go to a therapist. And I'm like, what? Like,
Right.
So I love that you said that.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're like, talking to your friends can definitely help,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's not gonna like, it doesn't replace what a therapist can give you.
Even if your friend is a therapist, they should not be your therapist.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know how it is in the States, but like here in like Ontario where I'm located, like you cannot see your family. You're not supposed to see your friends. Like you want to have that disconnect too, because then your friendship kind of gets into like a professional setting and then it just gets confusing and
dual roles where like you have your own biases and your relationships and your own things. So yeah,
Right.
Again, everyone out there, don't have a friend be a therapist in any shape or form or a family member.
Okay, so, you know, prioritizing your mental health can definitely be difficult. So, like, how exactly do you do that? What is that like?
What does it look like?
So I mean, honestly, again, it will look different for different people and depending on what that means to you. But I would suggest starting with, you know, sitting down with yourself, asking the hard questions. Have like a heart to heart with your mind. That's like a way that I like to think of it because we need to be able to sit and self-reflect. If we can't do that, then we're going to have difficulty understanding how am I feeling, you know? And that's really hard. I don't know if you've done it before to like just sit with your thoughts and feel your feelings. It is hard and it is not fun.
Oh yeah. We always want to kind of escape from it. It's like, this feels uncomfortable. I don't like this. Like, let me avoid this if I can.
Right. There's something that we do in therapy where she like, not always, but like when I'm not doing super great and I'm like, I'm feeling really anxious, like I can feel it in my whole body. She makes me like check in like what parts of my body I can feel it in and like where the tension is, or like if my heart's beating really fast or my chest feels really tight, and like sitting with that and like just thinking like kind of like asking that part of your body, like why are you stressed? Chest, like why are you so tense? Or like sometimes it's just, I don't know if this is normal or weird or not, but like sometimes when I like my anxiety is like really high, I get like my eyes get really weird. I don't know how to explain it. Like I can't like, it's like I can't focus and they just feel like restless. Like, and I can't like close my eyes like and like relax them. You know what I mean? So like when I close my eyes, like usually when you close your eyes, like your eyeballs kind of just sit there. When my anxiety is really high, when I close my eyes, I feel like I'm like still trying to look everywhere.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's super weird. And I feel like it's just because my whole body's on like high alert.
Yeah, so you just like can't relax any part of your body.
Right. And so it's like when I first said that to her, she was like, okay, like kind of like your reaction just now. And she was like, well, like, and like we just like relaxed it. And so it's so hard and so weird. And like, it's just weird to kind of ask yourself those like harder questions.
But I think that like you're totally right. Like it's something that is super important to do.
Yeah, and like what's more to that too is thinking back to that continuum, trying to figure out where are you today on that continuum, and then we can do what is super important and figure out how we got to that spot. You know, so let's say today I'm a 3. You know, how did I become a 3? Did something happen? And this could be positive or negative, right? Positive events can, you know, impact your mental health or your mental well-being in negative ways, 100%. But also, of course, negative events can also do that. And so I think it's just having that moment of looking back, has anything changed? Especially if this is like quick, dramatic change. So like, let's say the past week you're feeling great and then you wake up and you're like, oh, like I'm not doing too well. So, you know, usually there's a reason why that's happening. And so I think just being able to consider, you know, your surroundings and the interactions that you've had over the week is really important. Perhaps there was an argument that you had that at the time you were like, this is stupid, whatever, but you know, really it is eating away at you, right? So
kind of like retracing your steps, almost like you're like taking a walk backwards through like your day or your week kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, super hard to do. And I also think that it's important also to mention at this point, that sometimes you might not know why you are where you are, and that's okay. You don't have to, have an answer about why you're feeling the way you feel. You are allowed to feel the way you feel. Your feelings are valid, and unfortunately, like I'm trying to get across, mental health, mental well-being, super complicated. You are such a complex organism, we'll say, and there's so many factors involved. And so sometimes, unfortunately, our bodies can just kind of make us feel the way we feel, right? For example, with things like anxiety or depression, sometimes it's the chemical imbalance in your brain, and you can't do anything about that, which is really unfortunate.
Yes.
I mean, of course, there's things that you can do, but at the end of the day, you're not responsible for having a chemical imbalance in your brain, right? That's not your fault.
Yeah, it's not like you actively said, let me imbalance things in my brain. I choose to be this way. Like, no, it just like happens.
Yeah, like serotonin, too much.
Good day. Good day, serotonin. I say good day.
And I think it's really hard too to like not blame yourself for it. I know, like, especially with me, I'm always like I get mad at myself very easily. So it's just
like hard to let go of that blame, like
right,
of like my body is doing this. It's my fault, obviously, but it's not like you're saying like that serotonin imbalance is not like our active like decision to do that to ourselves.
Yeah, and so I think it just really brings home the point that yes, I think it's absolutely important to consider, did something happen? Of course, consider that. But then also at the end of the day, if there's nothing that's changed, if you have literally no idea, no reason, or just at your wit's end, you have no idea what's going on. Also do consider that sometimes our bodies are not the best to us. It's just something we're in, so we gotta take care of it. But sometimes it's there's more to what you're seeing.
Right.
Well, and I'd imagine too, like over time, as you like start to practice this more often too, like in the beginning, there might be more times you're like, I don't understand why I feel this way. But as you practice it more, you start to see more patterns and you start to become more aware of things. So then it's easier to trace back kind of your steps and be able to do that check-in a little bit better.
Yeah. Right. And that's one of the reasons that I do love like journaling. Is because I can like write down, and then, if I'm really struggling, I can go back and like see like what I wrote and like see if it's like, okay, if it was work related or if it was like family related or whatever it may be. And so I think having that like visual and like being able to go back to see what it is that like bothered me that week and why I feel that way.
Yeah, and that's so important. And I love that you journal. I love that. I think that's such a useful tool to have, and I think that more people need to do it, including myself. I try journaling, and I find that like I'm good for like the first 2 weeks, and then it's like, oh yeah, like I'm supposed to write stuff down.
Right. I'm definitely more inconsistent than I used to be, but usually on just like my harder days right now, I like just do it, which is, I don't know,
still serving a purpose. You're
right.
Still doing
do it as I remember, kind of thing.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, so if I had to kind of like sum up, I guess I would say, how do we prioritize? One, we're checking in with ourselves, and we're sitting through the feelings, and we're trying to just understand if there's a reason. And again, there might not be, and that's okay. And so once we can kind of figure that out, then we can move forward. We can go from there. And also, I should have said this earlier, but this can be very trauma inducing. If you have experienced trauma, you might not want to do this by yourself. And I would 100% recommend doing this with your therapist so that there is immediate support and help available. Because this can be really, really, really difficult. And so you want to make sure you're in a good environment to have those difficult introspective moments.
Right. So what are some like other ways to really prioritize your mental well-being or your mental health, like other than just checking in? Like what else can we do?
Yeah. And I'm so happy you asked that, because there is so much more to just like checking in with yourself. I would say checking in though is number one.
Right.
We have to be able to do that if we want to really take control and be aware. So in addition to that, or I guess in parallel, I would also suggest being aware of things that make you or that negatively impact your mental well-being. For example, social media. There is tons of research out there that suggests that the more time you spend on social media, the more it impacts your anxiety levels. And which is very upsetting. I love social media. I'm very active on there. And so, you just got to be careful. And I've seen that in myself too. Like on my personal Instagram, I've unfollowed tons of different like influencers and things like that because I find myself looking at their posts and being like, oh my gosh, like she's so beautiful. Like I wish I could do that. And then I get into this really negative headspace. And so, yeah, I've unfollowed people. I've unfollowed friends because I was like, I have to do this for my mental well-being.
Right. I've done that too. I think we talked about that in a couple episodes ago, because I was like, there was a time when I was on social media and I was following like a bunch of like fashion bloggers and like travel bloggers, and I was like, this is so neat. But then I got to a point where I was like, I don't have clothes like that. And it's like, and that's something stupid to get like upset about. But sometimes like on my like harder days, I was like, oh, like I can't afford those kinds of clothes. Like I can't afford that purse. Or like when they travel, I'm like, oh, like how do they get to travel so much when I'm like working this 9 to 5 and I have to be here all the time and they're just traveling. And like it would just make me like, there are certain things that would just make me feel like so upset, like, oh, like I'm stuck in this like office that I'm, not happy in, while these people are out like in freaking like Bora Bora or something, like having the times of their life. And so like stuff like that.
Yeah, the most tropical places too, and you're like,
right.
Look out the window, sad.
Right. And it's just like for us here in Arizona, it's just freaking like desert, and I'm just like, ugh, why isn't there a beach right in front of me? So I've definitely done that too. And it's and like one thing that I like to do is follow influencers to kind of show like real life and like kind of are just like honest and show that like, and not everything is traveling to Bora Bora and owning like the fanciest clothes, like it's like raw and real kind of thing.
Yeah. And so for me, like that's one of my things that I have to do to prioritize my mental well-being, mental health, is just to be aware of the negative things that impact me, which I would say social media. So that's my personal example, but there's other things too, right? Like if, certain family members are very, for you, if they're triggering of your mental well-being and it just goes downhill, like it's hard to do, but you are allowed to separate yourself from family. You are allowed to take a break. You are allowed to do all these things, right? Nobody, no one's going to force you, hopefully, to in the company of a certain person. So.
See, I also like that you mentioned taking a break from it, because it's not like you have to, sometimes you may have to cut things out completely, but, sometimes you may just need a break for a couple of days or a week or something. I actually have a friend who does kind of that same thing with social media, where she'll be on social media for a while, and then for like a month and a half, she'll just delete like all of her social media apps. And she like I used to have Snapchat, and I actually recently deleted my Snapchat for my mental health. But on Snapchat, she would be like, okay guys, like I'm deleting my Snap, like don't snap me for a month, or like I'll let you know when I'm back on, and just stuff like that. And I think that that's important, like setting those kind of boundaries with yourself.
Well, and I like what you mentioned too about family, because that's something that I have to do for myself. There's certain family members where I have had to kind of set that boundary where I need to take a break every so often, because when I'm around them, I don't feel super great, or it brings up all that stuff that kind of is triggering. But we can't necessarily, I can't necessarily let go of that relationship for my own reasons. And so it's that like balance kind of like setting what you need.
And that goes back to the break, right? Like, it's okay to be in the presence, of course, do what you can, but if it does become too much, like it's okay to excuse yourself and just take a moment for yourself, recoup, and then figure out how you want to move forward.
Right.
Yeah, so I would say that that's one way. And then another way too is, I know we always say like coping strategies, but I do mean it, like to be able to prioritize your mental well-being is being aware of what works for you. Because not every coping strategy is going to work. For example, if you have anxiety and you're doing grounding techniques, that's wonderful. But for somebody else who, might have experienced trauma, doing grounding techniques might not be the best choice being able to slow down and sit with your thoughts, like that could be really difficult. And so I think just being aware of what works for you and trying new things too, right? Like there's so many different strategies out there. And so being able to explore that is super important.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really cool point, because I've had coworkers and friends that have been diagnosed with like ADHD, and they're like, I try and do mindfulness, and mindfulness just does not work with me because of my mind like bouncing around in thoughts. Like I can't find a peaceful moment. And so for them, it's more so their coping strategies is like working out, getting out that energy, and then that helps them, rather than having that moment where they're trying to sit still and focus because it just doesn't quite fit for them.
Right. And I think that a lot of people have this like mindset of, coping / self-care has to be something like so specific, like especially like for like women, a lot of the times you see like their coping or their self-care being like face masks and like stuff like that, and like getting your nails done, or like taking a bath, like a nice calm bath or something like that. And it's like that doesn't work for everyone. Like I can't just sit in like a bathtub for like 30 minutes.
I
like
take maybe a bath, like a actual bath, maybe like 2 times a year, because I cannot handle it.
See, I'm too tall for my baths. So like I like don't fit in my bathtub.
I love a bath, and so I'm in Ontario. It's freezing here. Like I think today is like -12 Celsius.
Oh my gosh.
But thankfully we have a hot tub, so my husband and I will go hot tubbing in the evening, and it's like so peaceful.
See, like hot tub, that sounds amazing. But like sitting in a bath, maybe it's just because I'm ginormous. Like I'm just really long and I don't fit into my bathtub. I don't know if you know this, but I'm 6 feet tall. So for reference.
Yeah, I did not know that. I mean, from here you look pretty,
Thanks. I'm slouching a whole lot. Like hold on. I look huge. Okay, I'm gonna slouch.
My friend is also like 6'2", I think. And so when I'm with someone, I'm like, hey, like talking up.
Right. That's how it is with us. It's so funny. But I just really like kind of like the emphasis of like what works for you. Because it doesn't have to be all face masks and bathtubs. It can be, like you said, exercising, riding a bike, journaling, drawing. That's a good one. Doing BTS dance classes or dance workouts.
That's great. And I also like on my mental health page, I also I posted this visual coping. I think you guys saw it. It was and for me, like looking at art is so calming. I just feel so much more at peace, and it's another coping mechanism, and it allows for creativity. So personally, I find that creative ways to express myself is very calming. So if I can look at art, I mean, I can try to create art, but I wouldn't be very good. But like even like painting is a great way to do that. And a creative outlet is very, very helpful.
Right. I love that so much. And I think it's also important to like, find, and I know we were just talking about how sometimes social media can kind of be the opposite, but finding people to connect with, who can kind of relate on the same terms. So, just one of the reasons we started this podcast was to connect with people. And so kind of like getting more involved with like the mental health community, whether it's on social media or working like with like local organizations or something, something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like following things on it, like you're saying, like on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, like kind of getting that positivity or getting those messages into your life like more frequently, I think can sometimes help keep it in the forefront of our brain that we need to like focus and work on.
For sure. And like just on that too, like, social media has negatives, but also positive. So there's so many accounts out there that are so positive and, educational and connecting and like forming those relationships. So like you guys, or even like my mental health page, like come join us, welcome to the community. But there's also tons of resources out there. There's different forums. Like I know Reddit is really good too, with different like communities that they have for mental health. And there's so many people out there who are willing to share their experience and willing to connect with others. And if you can find those, I mean, you want to kind of build up your support. So the more people you have in your corner, the more you're learning, the better it's going to be. And
Right.
it's all about making those relationships.
Definitely.
I have a hot tip about Reddit. So they have a Reddit page that's like, it's whatever the slashes are or whatever, but it's AWW, so it's just like aw, and it is the cutest freaking like fluffy.
Is it like
animals.
puppies?
Oh yeah, puppies, kitties. So another I highly suggest that for any like coping when you're like, oh my god, the world is trash, I'm feeling so down. Like go just look at some like beautiful, sweet
baby animals.
Oh my god, yeah. It's amazing.
But yeah, I mean, and it, it doesn't have to be animals either. It could be like whatever the heck you want it to be. If you like looking at like flowers, I personally love flowers. So like look at stuff about plants.
Yeah, I just got 2 snake plants yesterday, and they're my babies. And
Did you say snake plants?
Snake plant? Yeah. Have you seen a snake plant?
No.
Really? It's it's like a really popular. It's kind of like a succulent, I guess, but like tall. I don't have one here to show you.
Okay, after we're
Like
done
long
recording,
pointy-
we're gonna look up some photos together of snake plants because I'm very intrigued.
Yes, and they survive anywhere. I had a work placement that was in the basement of a building. Unfortunately, it's where the office was, and I had a snake plant the entire time, and it survived. So
Nice. See,
Thanks.
and I feel like too, like learning to love something like plants. Like it sounds silly, but like that could totally be your form of self-care. Like gardening, like plants, like it's just so nice because self-care doesn't have to be anything specific.
Mhm.
Like your coping mechanism can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
absolutely, if you're feeling good about it and you feel good doing it, go for it.
Right. And I think too, like for me personally, a lot of the stuff that I like or that I like to do as my coping mechanism, I feel like I get embarrassed about a lot of stuff very easily. And we're gonna blame my Cancer moon for that. But I'm really teaching myself, especially with like I'm stepping way out of my comfort zone, like I'm making like makeup TikToks lately.
Mhm.
And it's like way out of my comfort zone, but I love it. And so I'm like trying just like really hard like not to be embarrassed about stuff. And so like I'm just here to remind you guys, whoever's watching / listening, to just do what you love, whatever makes you happy. Friends, cheers.
True that.
Cheers.
So, what would you actually? I realized I just didn't drink after we cheers.
I was gonna say, Catherine, gosh.
Okay, I took a sip. I did the cheers. So, if you had to kind of like break it down, quick summary, like what are the main points that you hope everyone like takes away from our chat today?
Yeah, I would say 1, most importantly, go see a therapist.
Yes.
Whatever we talk about. But number 2, number 1, understand your mental well-being. Sit down with yourself. Consider, how are you feeling? Why are you feeling this way? Did something happen? Really explore. And again, this can be really hard to do. And I do recommend that you might do this with a therapist who's able to support you during this time, because it can be really emotional. So I'd recommend that. And then also thinking of your mental well-being as a continuum so that you can more easily pinpoint where you are, and look into different coping mechanisms or strategies. Be aware of what impacts you negatively, find ways to make yourself feel better, and do not be afraid to ask for help, reach out, and try to surround yourself with educational, connection, and relationship building accounts if you're on Reddit or if you're on Instagram, whatever you're doing, because there's so many resources out there. And I know myself, or even you guys, I'm sure would be happy to help connect people to different resources.
Oh,
Right.
Definitely.
Right. That's for sure like one of our goals, is to like just like, be here for people, build a community, and then also help connect people to resources.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, speaking of resources, I guess like, do you know of any resources that, people are really struggling, like they can reach out to or anything like that?
And I know they might be a little bit different because you're based in Canada.
Right.
So I know this, you can definitely, even in America, you can still use this. It's called Toronto Distress Centers. It is a crisis helpline, but you can internationally, you can call it. And so if you just want to Google that, again, it's Toronto Distress Center. Everyone that volunteers there is from the community. So they're not going to be mental health professionals, but there's lots of research that also shows that community peer support can be exceptionally healing and helps you relate better and things like that. So if you are struggling, search for their number, give them a call. But everyone is trained in crisis intervention, suicide intervention, and can connect you with your own your own local distress line, because they are usually, like, there's tons out there. So you can even Google your own distress line for your
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's super helpful.
Yeah. Just at least having like that first step, like if you don't know anywhere else to go to or to reach out to, like just at least starting there, and then they can connect the dots with you.
Right.
absolutely, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up for today.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Thank you so much for joining. I think it was like, I got goosebumps a few times during the episode, not gonna lie.
I'm thoroughly pleased to be here.
So before we wrap up, do you want to plug your Instagram so that if people wanted to go follow and kind of see the positive messages that you put out there, could go follow?
Yeah, so my Instagram for mental health is the @ symbol, and then mental health wellness, and the wellness has 3 S's.
Okay, perfect.
2 S's.
It's wellness.
Really want to emphasize that. So come check out my Instagram account, join the community. We're very supportive and love to just hear your experiences and form new connections.
She has some really great reels, and maybe after this we can teach me how to do reels, because this is like a whole new world
It's
for
a
me.
whole new world.
We'll create a reel about how to teach Catherine how to do reels.
There we go.
I love it. I'm ready for it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, we were so happy to have you here. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe. Also follow us on Instagram, and also follow Anne on Instagram, because she is wonderful, amazing, not being biased. Absolutely love her account so much.
Honestly, ditto.
But thank you guys for joining, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, friends.
Nothing.